Hello, welcome to the Path to Better A1C podcast. I am your host, Jenny Pena. I am a national board certified health and wellness coach, diabetes prevention program lifestyle coach, and creator of the A1C Reset Protocol, which is my 12-week coaching program to help you balance your blood sugar, lower your A1C, prevent diabetes, and improve your health overall. And today I am honored to have Kim as a guest on my podcast. And she's going to share a little bit about what she does and why she does what she does. I am super excited because she comes with knowledge around like gut health and functional lab work. And she's going to give a little more details, but I'm sure that you're going to be blessed with all the information. So, Kim, the mic is yours.
Hi, thanks for having me here. And hello to everyone who's listening. I'm Kim Heintz, and I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. I run functional labs. I look at things like the gut and minerals and hormones and blood work. And we even look for mold sometimes, depending on the person. I have a whole gamut of labs that I run and work with a lot of people who are dealing with issues. I work with a lot of people who are burned out. I'm in my mid 40s, so I work with a lot of people who are in their 40s and 50s who've noticed that we're not feeling as good as we did as we once were. So how do we get optimized and get things back working the way they should? And so a big reason that I do this is because I personally had health issues when I was in my teens and 20s and early 30s. I was dealing with chronic migraines. I was having like 3 to 5 a week. And when I was 28, I had a migraine that lasted an entire year. So I was trying all the things, going to all the specialists and trying different medications and having all sorts of tests run. And they really couldn't figure out why I was dealing with this chronic cycle of migraines. I was also dealing with a dozen plus other symptoms that were just starting to pile on: depression, anxiety, insomnia, chronic fatigue. It was just all over the place. And ultimately, I was taking 7 different medications at one point. And finally, I found somebody who does what I do now because I really was just not getting any better. I was basically just getting worse over time. And so I found somebody who's more in the functional space. I worked with her, and within a month, my migraines were that went down from 3 to 5 a week to a couple a week maybe. And within a few months, I was getting maybe one or two a month. And I've now been migraine free for over 8 years. So, I was told by a
That's
doctor.
amazing.
I
That must
know.
feel so good to say.
It is. It's almost at this point, it's almost hard to realize that I was struggling with migraines at that level for so long. It feels like just a really bad dream at this point. I'm so grateful for taking a chance on a different approach because here I am today. I feel great, and it changed the trajectory of my career too because I went back and got certified, and now I work with people struggling with their health.
The functional approach is more not to look at the symptoms, which is like traditional doctors tend to focus on, but more on like a root cause. And then I mentioned gut health. How would you define gut health? Like why is it important? I hear a lot of the buzzwords, right? Like leaky gut and all these other things. Like what does that mean? For those that have heard the buzzword, but maybe they cannot even articulate, what does that even mean?
Yeah, the gut is responsible for so much in the body. We have hormones that are converting there. Obviously, digestion is happening there. So everything we eat or consume doesn't have to just be eat, drink, medications, all the things gets passed through that system. Our immune system, a lot of our immune system is housed there. Having good gut health is beneficial for so many reasons: for reducing inflammation, for reducing chances of getting sick. You can have an unhealthy gut and have no symptoms, which that was really my case. But you can have a ton of other symptoms that are driven by inflammation. Like you brought up the term leaky gut, which basically means what the word is that your gut is not holding everything. It's allowing things to pass through it into the bloodstream, which can drive inflammation across the body. So gut health is, I always say, a healthy gut equals a healthy body. And so it's really important to ensure that we are taking care of our gut because of so many processes that happen in the gut or due to the gut.
Okay. And I know that there is a lot of everybody wants to fix things with supplements.
hmm
What are some things that people can incorporate or can explore? These are good habits that I should incorporate to improve the health in my gut too? Or is it more complex? Because I have heard it's not like a cookie cutter. It can be, there are layers between that. But is there anything that the audience are doing now?
Yeah, the foundations are crucial. I think we should always start with the foundations. Everything in health is bio-individual. So, of course, there's going to be times where somebody needs more than the foundations, but we should always start there, not with going after all the supplements that people are, shining in front of our faces and saying that you have to have this. So, some of the basics that I recommend that people focus on to start is this is so simple, but like chewing your food thoroughly. Because if you, digestion really begins in the mouth. And if you are eating a piece of chicken or whatever, and you are swallowing it after just a couple of chews, that piece of chicken or whatever you're eating is fairly whole. And now your stomach, your gut has to do a lot more work to break that down, the work that the teeth really should have done. And your gut doesn't have teeth in it like like your teeth actually do. So if you aren't chewing your food almost to like a sauce like consistency, not only does your gut have to work harder, but it can damage the lining of your gut too. And so chewing I've had people come back to me after I told them to do, and they're like, begrudgingly like, okay, it's not the it's not the super fun stuff, but it's like they came back and they were like, wow, I can't believe how much better I feel just by slowing down and chewing. So that's one thing that I highly recommend. Another thing that I recommend is making sure you're well hydrated. A lot of people are chronically dehydrated, especially if you're dealing with constipation. Getting enough water in should be your very first step.
Mhm.
Uh, and it helps our body produce stomach acid. Now, on the other side of it, you want to be careful about not drinking too much while you're eating because then it dilutes the stomach acid, which breaks the food down. So be hydrated, but have most of your hydration happen outside of meals and then just drink enough to get through the meal. So those are a couple of areas that I think can be super beneficial for people. I would say another third thing, which also helps blood sugar, is making sure you're getting out for a walk after eating, especially. It's really good for digestion, and even a 5, 10, 15-minute walk can lower blood sugar as
Mhm.
well.
Yep.
So those are three foundational things that anybody can do, costs nothing, and it can make a big difference.
Yeah, and like a lot of my clients are like C executives and professionals, and sometimes they want to cruise through lunch, and I'm like, can you please at least take 15 minutes and have a mindful eating? Sometimes they can't even remember that they actually ate or that
Right?
how the food tastes, and that brings another color with the chewing that I didn't bring up that now I'm going to bring up to my clients and be like, well, it's going to help your gut. If you're just eating so fast, that means you're probably not chewing your food as you
Yeah.
should. So
Yeah.
that is like interesting.
I
Okay.
have been guilty of that too, right? We're all busy, right? And so it's multitasking. We
Yeah.
try to be professional multitaskers.
And trying to get as much done as possible. Now, being that said, is there anything specific that maybe individuals with insulin resistance or that are dealing with blood sugar dysregulation they need to be mindful of? Especially when they're on medications. One thing that a lot of my clients will say is, I am having metformin and I'm having GLP-1s and I'm having all these GI issues. And how can I address it? Some people struggle with constipation. Other people, it's the other way around. They have diarrhea where it becomes very unpredictable. What are some suggestions or some things that you have seen, maybe with your clients, maybe just in your practice, that they would be mindful of in terms of nutrition and habits and anything that you can share?
When you're on a medication like a GLP-1, it can change several things within the gut. Constipation is a really big thing because GLP-1s, these medications that are being used, can slow digestion down, they slow motility down. And so if that's the case, one, getting that hydration up is crucial, making sure that you are drinking enough. And if you're not sure, track it, because I'll talk to especially a lot of busy people. I work with a lot of busy professionals as well, and when I ask them, they're drinking 30 to 40 ounces of water a day. So I would definitely make sure that you are drinking enough when it comes to that, and getting that up. Chewing your food, just like we talked about, also can really help with that because not chewing your food can slow digestion down as well. A lot of times when you are on these medications, you can notice that you're losing interest in your appetite decreases and you're losing interest in certain types of food. And so it's really important to make sure that you're getting enough of the right nutrients in as well, because nutrient dense foods, protein rich foods, like they're necessary for feeling great,
Hmm.
and making sure that you're consuming these, like, if you don't have an interest in them, putting it as a priority to just get the foods in regardless so that you're taking care of all the other functions in the body besides the blood sugar. We don't wanna just prioritize reducing insulin resistance and supporting blood sugar without, and start ignoring all the other processes in the
Hmm.
body because everything is so deeply connected. Um, there are some, again, speaking about the constipation too, like electrolytes can be really great too, not just plain water, but making sure you're getting electrolytes in because electrolytes, which are nutrients, so sodium and potassium and magnesium, like they actually will help the bowels be able to push the stool through. And so if you're depleted in those, some of these medications will actually deplete nutrients at the same time. And then if you're not eating as much, you're also having a depletion in nutrients, like making sure like you're getting a quality electrolyte in. It can be as simple as sea salt. Doesn't have to be any of those fancy, expensive electrolyte packages that are out there, but even putting a pinch of sea salt in the water that you drink can go a really long way. Um, and so gentle fiber also can be very helpful, and gentle movement, just making sure that you're just getting adequate amounts of these things in because otherwise you'll feel that fullness, you'll feel that constipation, and that can be very uncomfortable. Now on the looser stool side of things, I think the big we see a lot of times with looser stools is that, well, one, these medications sometimes can change the makeup of the gut. So there could be something along that line. And then if you are dealing with looser stools and having to find bathrooms, reducing stress is a huge part of that because our stress and our bowel movements can be strongly linked. There are some other strategies as well with looser stools, but if you are dealing with looser stools, it makes me wonder if you already had something else going on that was being. I almost like to think of these symptoms as like trying to or filling a bucket, like all the things that can cause symptoms. And when the bucket overflows, we can experience more and more symptoms. So I wondered, did the GLP-1 or the medication trigger kind of make the bucket spill over? You already had some underlying things going on. So,
One thing that I was thinking about, you mentioned fiber and also fermented foods.
mhm.
What are the roles of these two groups in terms of gut health? Because you read a lot of things out there. Does it make any difference to incorporate these? Is there such thing as good fiber and bad fiber when it comes to gut health?
We do want to consume an adequate amount of fiber. A lot of processed foods are void of fiber. And so I do encourage people to track, even if you're tracking for 2, 3 days, just so you can get an idea of where you're at. I find that with my clients, when they first start with me, they're consuming maybe 10 to 15 grams of fiber. And really, we should be aiming for more like 25 to 35 grams. Um, there's evidence. Obviously, it can help with bowel movements. These fibers can also nourish the good bacteria in our gut, which helps keep us healthy. And there's evidence too coming out that getting enough fiber can actually lower our risk of heart disease. So, one of my clients test high. I test markers other than general cholesterol. There's some other markers that you can test now that are a better indicator of heart disease, and uh, incorporating good fibers can actually lower those numbers and put people back in good ranges and reverse them away from potential for heart attack later on.
Another reason why fiber should be included. It seems like the sexy macro these days is
Yeah.
protein, right? Everybody's talking about protein. And fiber is that middle child quietly like sitting there. And it's like, wait a minute. No, like fiber helps you stay full longer. It helps your body produce natural GLP-1. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and also it helps balance your blood sugar. And now we
Mhm.
can add gut health to
Yeah.
the list. So look at all of the things. And a lot of people, please don't tell me that when I tell you that you need to incorporate more fiber that you're gonna get a supplement. That's like the first incline, like getting a supplement. I'm like, why don't we try to explore natural ways of getting that fiber in? Not that I'm
Mhm.
ditching the supplements. You could, and many cases you should, but let's explore that first. It's the same thing with protein. A lot of people, you tell them, oh, well, your protein levels should be at this. Okay, I'm gonna get a protein drink.
Yep.
Like they don't think about chicken, fish, eggs to
Right.
add more protein. They just think about this is the easiest way that I can get it in and that is processed. And then we explore how you can add natural ways. And then then if you need to supplement, then we work on that. Now, I know that another thing that you probably covered has to do a lot with the minerals and with certain vitamins. What are some vitamins that are typically in the low range, especially when people are having these medications and are dealing with blood sugar? If there are anything that's specific on that matter.
Especially if you going back to the electrolyte, I'll start there since that's where I left off. I see in my testing, I run a hair tissue mineral analysis, which is a better indicator of electrolytes than blood. I often will see very depleted sodium and potassium and magnesium in people, and many medications, and including some of these like GLP-1 type
Mhm.
medications, they can also deplete those electrolytes, those minerals, and they're crucial. I mean, magnesium alone is used in, depending on who you ask, 300, 500, 600 enzyme reactions in the body. It's one of our most needed minerals in the body, and most of us are deficient in it. So that is something that we do want to put a focus on. It doesn't have to be a supplement. Topical actually oftentimes is way more absorbed than taking a capsule. Sea salt for sodium and potassium-rich foods, coconut water and bananas, and you can even make a potassium broth. Like, there's plenty of opportunity to get those levels in. So those are crucial areas, in my opinion. If you're dealing with any sort of constipation or level of fatigue or burnout, those typically are pretty depleted in people. B vitamins are also one of the things. Like, I know we were talking before we hit record, and you brought up that some doctors will even prescribe a B vitamin supplement associated with it. And, I see B vitamins depleted all the time in folks. As far as like other nutrients, it really can vary per person, I would say. I see stuff all over the map, but I think focusing on those areas, there's a lot of foods rich in B vitamins too. You don't always have to take a supplement. If you can focus on those types of things and just putting a little bit of planning into your shopping list to make sure that you're hitting all those groups, it can go a really long way for improving how you feel, improving the gut motility, especially if you're having an impact of that by the medications. It helps all functions in the body, to be honest.
What is typically the process that you would but if somebody comes, my A1C levels are elevated, I'm dealing with these things, what would be the rundown? I'm gonna sit with Kim and we're gonna talk about this in terms of labs and approaches. What is like the
Yeah.
typical approach?
If we're talking about running some labs, if we have blood already, great. I think blood is, especially when you're talking blood sugar, is just making sure you have a baseline and then retesting that regularly to see how things are improving. And then the other two labs at a minimum that I think can be super beneficial would be that hair tissue mineral analysis that looks at your nutrient levels, and then a stool test. I run a test called the GI map, which is a gut pathogen screen. You were talking a little bit about, how fiber can help the body unlock that natural GLP-1 production. And what I've noticed, there's a section on the stool test that shows people's levels of bacteria that are producing short chain fatty acids. And a lot of times they're super depleted in people, especially with people who have blood sugar dysregulation. And so that's why one of the reasons I want to look at that, because if that's depleted, we need to know that we need to support it and how we want to support that. The third test, depending on a person's situation, is looking into mold. If they have some sort of mold exposure, because mold can impact blood sugar as well, especially people who are like, I'm doing all the things right. and I still there's some sort of inflammation being driven here. We might look into that. Sometimes we do it right away, sometimes we don't. It really depends on the person.
Is there any indicator if there is a mold issue, or is there like any hidden symptoms?
Frequent urination is a pretty big sign that there could be mold. Now, obviously, if you're drinking, a big glass of water before bed, we need to lower that first. But
Mhm.
if you just go into the bathroom multiple times at night, especially, or you're just constantly going to the bathroom, we may want to look there. There's all sorts of other symptoms as well. Feeling highly reactive to things is a really big indicator that you might have some sort of toxin burden on your body. People can have respiratory symptoms. They can have fatigue, brain fog. They can have like feel like they're having like electric currents through their body. It's kind of all over the place.
Wow, interesting. So I
Mhm.
guess being connected to your body and being aware of these things and not dismissing them. I know that you shared a lot of information and a lot of different tips. If there's like one thing now that at the end of the episode, one thing that you would say, especially I will say for everybody, because obviously like it's not just about blood sugar, even though most of my audience are trying to manage that. But if there's like one thing that they will leave that they can start doing the moment that they finish listening to this podcast, what would be that?
I would say one of my favorite health tips that I think everyone can benefit from is when you wake up in the morning, you have salted lemon water. And the reason that I say this is because, I talked about how most people are very depleted in sodium. And if you have this in the morning, sodium nourishes our adrenals. And I know salt's gotten a terrible rap, but it really isn't the enemy that it's been made out to be. There's a great book called The Salt Fix if you are really curious about it. It goes deep, deep into salt, but it the sodium nourishes our adrenals. And you do this in like a room temperature water or slightly warm water. You don't want to do cold water because that can slow digestion down too. But the reason you do it first thing in the morning is it stimulates your adrenals, so you all automatically start waking up. It can start stimulating digestion because salt is a big factor in creating stomach acid for us to be able to digest our foods. If you put a squeeze of half of a lemon in it, it nourishes your liver, and your body just spent all night detoxing, so giving your liver some love can be helpful. Now, if you can't tolerate lemon, don't put the lemon in. And then, just sipping on 8 ounces of that. So it's a pinch of sea salt. After a week, you can build up to a quarter teaspoon. You do that every morning. It's a great way to jumpstart your day and jumpstart a lot of the systems that help you, get through the day.
Now, so that people get to know you a little bit, right? Like we're going to throw a few questions about yourself so they can get to know Kim the person. What is your morning routine?
Yeah. My morning routine is I get up, I have my warm salted lemon water. I have a small protein heavy snack. Like a lot of times it'll be like a hard boiled egg or something like that. And then I have a matcha green tea. And I sit at my kitchen table and I get ready for my day and plan my day out and make sure I'm ready to go. We have 3 cats, and so making sure that they're all taken care of and fed. Every morning actually when I get up, one of my cats waits for me on our bed, and when I stand there she jumps on my shoulder and she makes me carry her to the kitchen. So I guess I should have started with that because that's the start of my morning routine. It's the most adorable thing. It's been going on for like 3 months now. So yeah, that's really I sit in front of a vitamin D lamp in the morning as well, take care of the birds. I just make sure everything's set, my day's set, and then I can go into the bigger part of my day.
Okay. What is like your guilty pleasure when it comes to food?
Mm, my guilty pleasure when it comes to food, I would say, something that makes me really happy is my matcha. And then something else that I really enjoy is we make homemade pizza, like a couple times a month. So we make like a sourdough crust, and so that's something that we really look forward to is just together making homemade pizzas on a Friday night and indulging in that.
That is so cool. Well, I have my version, even though I don't do the crust
What
from
is
scratch with my son, with my 7-year-old son. We actually take naan bread. Like instead of actual
Oh,
crust, like we take a naan bread and he makes his own pizza. He feels like he's a grown up because he's pouring the sauce and he's pouring everything and puts it in the air fryer. And that is like his version. It's like, oh, can we make pizza? And
yeah.
he loves that. So that's like
That's
one of
awesome.
our traditions that we do, and he
I
feels
love that.
very much a grown up because he did it on his own. That's like his thing.
That's
But
cool. It's a
okay.
core memory that he'll probably have forever too.
Absolutely. Like he
Yeah.
looks forward to it. Whenever we don't have the ingredients, he's like, "Wait a minute, we don't have everything." And he gets a little disappointed. But okay, awesome. Can you please share where they can find you? Even though I am going to put all the information in the show notes, so don't panic. We connected on Instagram and I just loved your post. I love science and I love to know the science behind it. So follow Kim on Instagram because she has a lot of great information and facts. And one thing that you mentioned with magnesium, because there's so many different types, and a lot of my clients sometimes will ask me, and I'm like, well, you need to talk to your doctor about it. But I will give them some information, and a few of them, I'll share your post. You have a very, and I'm going to find it and put it in the show notes
Oh, that's a good
that
idea.
has all the information, the types of magnesium, and this is what they support in your body. That I found that it was very interesting. But most of your posts are like that. So if you really liked that level of detail, you're going to enjoy following Kim's account on Instagram. But please share where they can find you and so they can connect with you.
Yeah, I'm very active on Instagram. It's how Jenny and I connected. We were talking before we met, or before we hit record, that we feel like we've known each other, know each other very well because of our connection on Instagram. And so Kim.Heinz or at Kim.Heinz is my Instagram handle. And then I also have a website, kimheinz.com. And, I've got blog posts there. I go a lot deeper as well into some of the stuff that we talk about here, as well as what you see on Instagram. So those are the two big places to find me.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all the knowledge, everything that you shared. I'm sure that everybody is super excited to dig deeper and probably check some of those posts. I'm telling you, they're amazing. As always, every Friday, there is a brand new episode to help you improve your health, balance your blood sugar, and hopefully you will be able to have yet another reason to incorporate some fiber and work on your gut because it's not just about blood sugar, but about many more things in your body. Have an amazing rest of your week. Bye.